The next morning, the town of Mill Creek was filled with talk. Everyone had heard about what happened on Main Street. The two deputies who tried to arrest a stranger, only to find out he was their new sheriff. Some people laughed quietly about it, others felt embarrassed. But one thing was certain. Nothing in that town would be the same again. Marcus. Reed woke up early in his small rented house just outside town. He ironed his new brown uniform, polished his boots until they shined, and pinned his silver badge to his chest. The same badge that had stopped those deputies in their tracks yesterday. He stood in front of the mirror for a moment. His reflection looked calm, but inside he was thinking deeply. He wasn't angry. He was determined. He wanted to show everyone, citizens and officers alike, that real strength came from fairness and respect, not from fear. When Marcus walked into the sheriff's office that morning, the air went still. Every head turned toward him. Some of the older officers lowered their eyes. A few gave him awkward nods. Deputy Cole and Deputy Haskins stood stiffly near the coffee machine, pretending to read a file. The old sheriff's nameplate still hung above the door, a reminder of the past leadership that allowed bad habits to grow. Marcus took off his hat slowly and placed it on his desk. He looked around the room, then spoke in a calm voice that carried across the office. "Good morning, everyone." No one answered at first. Marcus continued, "I know what kind of place Mill Creek has been. I've heard the stories. I've seen the reports. But I didn't come here to point fingers. I came here to fix what's broken. And that starts today." He paused, letting his words sink in. The deputies shifted uneasily. Cole glanced up and said quietly, "Yes, sir." Marcus looked at him for a moment and nodded slightly. Then he continued, "This office is going to be about honesty and respect from now on. No one gets treated differently because of who they are or what they look like. We serve everyone equally. That's the badge's duty. If anyone here can't stand by that, the door's open. No hard feelings. But this is the new way forward." The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, a few officers nodded. Some mumbled in agreement. It wasn't loud, but it was a start. Later that morning, Marcus went on patrol through the town. People recognized him now. Some smiled, others just watched quietly as he passed by. At the diner, Mrs. Jenkins waved from her window and handed him a cup of coffee on the house. He thanked her with a warm smile. The same men who had laughed the day before now held the door open for him. Over the next few weeks, Marcus worked harder than anyone expected. He fixed the broken light outside the sheriff's office himself. He visited the local school and spoke to students about fairness and courage. He stopped by small shops to ask what problems they were facing. For the first time in years, the sheriff's badge meant safety, not fear. But not everyone was happy about the change. Some of the old officers resisted quietly. They didn't like being told what to do by a man who didn't look or act like the sheriffs they were used to. Rumors spread, small ones, whispered in corners, but Marcus ignored them. He believed action spoke louder than talk. One afternoon, a call came in about a family stranded on the back road after their car broke down. Cole and Haskins were the only ones on duty nearby, but they didn't answer quickly. Marcus picked up the radio and said, "I'll take it." When he arrived at the scene, he found a mother with 2 children sitting by the road. The engine had overheated. He smiled kindly and said, "Let's get you folks out of this heat." He helped them load into his truck, towed their car to a garage, and even bought cold drinks for the kids at a nearby store. The children laughed as he handed them sodas, and the mother whispered, "Thank you, Sheriff." No one's ever been this kind here. When he returned to the office, Cole was waiting, his face serious. "You didn't have to go out there yourself, sir," he said quietly. Marcus smiled faintly. "That's what we're here for. To help, not to hide." That moment planted something in Cole's mind. a seed of respect he didn't expect to feel. Over the next few days, he began to change too. He started showing up early, greeting townsfolk politely, and helping Marcus clean up the old records room. Haskins followed his lead soon after. One evening, as the sun set over Mill Creek, Marcus sat outside the station, sipping coffee. Cole walked up to him slowly. "Sheriff," he began, "about that day. I'm sorry. I judged you before I knew you." Marcus looked up, his eyes kind. "We all make mistakes, Cole. What matters is what we do after." Cole nodded. "I want to do better." Marcus smiled slightly. "Then let's get to work. This town still needs us." Weeks turned into months, and the change spread. The sheriff's office started hosting open meetings. Citizens came to share concerns, and Marcus listened patiently to every voice. Crime went down, trust went up. For the first time in years, Mill Creek felt united. One morning, a letter arrived from the state board. It praised the department for outstanding community service and improvement. The same department that once made people afraid was now being recognized for fairness. Marcus read the letter quietly, then pinned it on the wall for everyone to see. That afternoon, when he walked down Main Street, children waved at him. One of them, a small boy holding his father's hand, shouted, "That's our sheriff." Marcus smiled warmly and tipped his hat. The people around laughed gently, proud of the man who had turned their town around. Later that day, Mrs. Jenkins stopped him outside her store. "You did it, Sheriff," she said softly. "You changed this place." Marcus shook his head. "No, ma'am. The people changed it. I just reminded them how to care again." That night, Marcus sat on the porch of his small house, watching the stars. The same wind that once carried whispers of fear now carried sounds of laughter and peace. The town was quieter, kinder. The two deputies who once tried to arrest him now stood proudly by his side, working with honesty and respect. Marcus looked at the silver badge lying on the table beside him. It wasn't just metal anymore. It was a promise kept. A promise that even in the smallest towns, justice could still shine if someone was brave enough to stand for it. He took a deep breath and smiled. Mill Creek was no longer the same place he had driven into that first morning. It was stronger now. And somewhere deep inside, Marcus knew his late father, who had once dreamed of wearing a badge, but never got the chance, would have been proud. The stranger the deputies tried to arrest had become the leader everyone needed. Not through fear, not through power, but through quiet strength, kindness, and truth. The sun was rising over the quiet town of Mill Creek when a dusty old pickup truck rolled slowly down the main street. The town looked peaceful from a distance, but it carried a long history of trouble, corruption, unfair treatment, and people divided by race and pride. The man driving the truck, Marcus Reed, had heard about that reputation. He didn't come to judge. He came to change it. Marcus was calm, strong, and confident. He had spent 12 years in the army, traveling through deserts and war zones, learning patience, courage, and how to keep his cool when life turned rough. Now, after returning home, he had earned something else, an official badge that named him the new Sheriff of Mill Creek County. He didn't wear his uniform that day. Instead, he wore a simple gray shirt and jeans. He wanted to walk into the town quietly, see how people acted when they didn't know who he was. He wanted to understand their hearts before they saw his badge. When he parked near the town square, he stepped out, stretched his back, and looked around. Old shops lined the street, an antique store, a barber shop, a diner that smelled of coffee and toast. But he could also feel the tension. Some people looked at him with curiosity. Others turned away too quickly. Marcus took a slow breath. He was used to it. He had seen looks like that before, even while wearing his army uniform. He didn't let it shake him. He walked over to a notice board to read about local event school fairs. a missing pet, and a sheriff's department meeting scheduled for next week. That made him smile. That meeting was supposed to introduce the new sheriff Him1012, but then two local officers stepped out of their patrol car nearby. They were Deputy Cole and Deputy Haskins, both tall and proud, with mirrored sunglasses and badges shining under the morning light. They had been part of the old system, the one that didn't like change. When they saw Marcus, a tall black man standing by a government truck with state plates, they didn't ask questions politely. They assumed, "Hey," Cole called out sharply, "you lost or something." Marcus turned toward them, his voice even. "No, sir. Just arrived in town." "Just arrived, huh?" Haskins said, stepping closer. "Where are you coming from?" Marcus smiled politely. "From the state office. I'm here on business." That should have been enough, but they weren't listening. Cole crossed his arms. "Business? Around here? Let's see some ID." Marcus nodded and reached slowly for his wallet, moving calmly so they wouldn't think he was resisting. But before he could pull it out, Cole grabbed his arm roughly. "Don't try anything funny," he said. The grip was hard and unnecessary. Marcus looked him in the eye. "I'm not trying anything, officer." People nearby began to notice what was happening. Two men from the diner stepped outside, and an elderly woman carrying groceries froze on the sidewalk. Marcus could feel every stare. He didn't want a scene, but it was already turning into one. Haskins stepped in front of him and looked at the truck. "Government plates? You steal this thing." Marcus stayed calm. "No, sir. It's my assigned vehicle." Cole sneered. "Assigned? To who?" "To me," Marcus said quietly. That answer made them laugh. "Sure," Cole said. "And I'm the president." He twisted Marcus's wrist a little more and pushed him toward the patrol car. Marcus stumbled slightly, but didn't fight back. He had faced worse situations than this. He knew losing his temper would only make it worse. Still, his voice carried quiet strength when he said, "You don't want to do this." Cole frowned. "What did you say?" "I said you don't want to do this," Marcus repeated. The two officers exchanged looks. The sound of their radios crackled faintly, but they ignored it. Cole reached for his handcuffs. "We'll find out who you really are down at the station." At that moment, the grocery bag from the elderly woman fell to the ground with a loud thud, apples rolling across the pavement. She gasped and called out, "Wait! Wait! Stop right there!" Everyone turned toward her. It was Mrs. Jenkins, owner of the antique store and one of the oldest residents of Mill Creek. She recognized Marcus instantly. She pointed a trembling finger toward him. "That's the new sheriff. The one they told us about at the board meeting last week." For a few seconds, no one spoke. The air turned heavy. Cole blinked, confused. "What?" "I said he's the sheriff," Mrs. Jenkins repeated, her voice stronger now. "You two idiots are trying to arrest your own boss." A soft murmur spread through the small crowd. The two deputies froze in place. Haskins looked at Marcus again, searching his face, and then noticed the edge of something shiny peeking from Marcus's shirt pocket, a silver badge. Marcus slowly pulled it out and held it up. The sunlight caught the engraving. Sheriff Marcus Reed, Mill Creek County. The street went silent. Even the sound of passing cars faded. Cole let go of Marcus's arm at once, stepping back awkwardly. "Sir, we didn't know." Marcus brushed the dust off his sleeve calmly. "No, you didn't." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. His silence spoke louder than anger ever could. He looked at both deputies steadily, then said, "We'll continue this talk at the station." The crowd began whispering louder now. Some people smiled, almost proud that justice had flipped so quickly. Others looked embarrassed, ashamed of what they had just witnessed. Cole and Haskins stood still, their faces pale. while Marcus opened his truck door. Before leaving, he turned to Mrs. Jenkins. "Thank you, ma'am," he said softly. She nodded. "You're welcome, Sheriff. This town's been waiting for someone like you." Marcus gave her a small nod and climbed into his truck. As he started the engine, he glanced in the mirror and saw the two deputies still standing in the middle of the street, staring at each other. They knew their world had just changed, and they weren't sure how to face it. As Marcus drove toward the sheriff's office, he thought about how quickly people could judge by appearance. But he also thought about something else: the courage of one woman who spoke up when everyone else stayed quiet. That single voice had stopped something wrong from happening. He smiled faintly as he parked outside the office building. Tomorrow, he would arrive in uniform. Tomorrow, those same men would salute him. But today, he had already learned something more important than power or pride: that true authority comes from character, not a badge. Inside his truck, he placed the silver star on the dashboard and looked at it quietly. The badge was bright, but it was also heavy with duty, patience, and forgiveness. He whispered to himself, "This town's going to change, one day at a time." And as the sun set behind the old courthouse, the people of Mill Creek whispered about the stranger who turned out to be the sheriff. A man who didn't fight back with anger, but with calm strength and quiet dignity. That evening, for the first time in many years, there was hope in the town's air.